They will say that I have shed innocent blood. What's blood for, if not for shedding?
I'm your number one fan.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
God, it knows I'm here.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
You're listening to the Slasher Sports Show with Billy Graves.
Like, I'll be honest, there were times when I was kind of like, if I was interested in the subject or if I understood it right off the bat.
Yeah, I was kind of the same way.
Yeah, if it didn't interest me, then I was out. And as a matter of fact, there was no better, I guess, description of that dichotomy than when English class started involving literature. Because it used to be reading was a class and then English was a class. And I would ace English and just do miserably in literature because I wasn't a reader. I'm still not a reader.
Yeah, I wasn't a reader either. I mean, I'm still not. And like, I love superheroes, and it sucks that I'm such a bad reader because I want to read all these awesome comics.
Yeah, there's so much I'm missing out on, man. Like I'm a big fan of the whodunnit, the mystery novel, especially like the Agatha Christie type stuff. And that didn't even hit me until like my older years. I'm 40 now, so that probably started when I was, I don't know, like 35. Honestly, it was whenever Kenneth Branagh came out with Murder on the Orient Express.
Okay, so I'm turning 30 this year. So now I'm turning 30, I'll get more into books, is what you're saying?
I think so. I mean, it might be a few years, and it might be a different version of your midlife crisis. But but that's what mine's been. And I guess I'm lucky. I didn't shave my head or go and just get tatted the fuck up, or
you didn't make a feature film with your buddies.
Not yet. That's coming, but I mean, it's not really coming. I've just now sat down to mess around with a screenplay.
Oh, nice. Yeah, last time you were talking about wanting to make a movie, so that sounds awesome.
Oh, listen, between now and then, I've actually sat down. I've put a couple of things on paper. I've got a few people like as inspiration. Not necessarily like I'm gonna like ask this person to, because I'm one of those people who like assumes that nobody wants to do a thing for me.
Yeah,
if I ask them to do it,
for sure. Yeah,
it sucks to be that way. But like when I think about the killer. I think about a specific person that we both know. I think about the protagonist, and I think about certain people that we know. I think about the setting, and I think about a place that I could actually go to tonight. And like, there's so much assumptioning going on that I don't want to be assumptioning. I want to just
just do it. I mean, most of the time, people are just they're gonna say yes.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I mean, like, I always have that same fear too. Like, I'm always worried about, like, I don't know, like it takes me forever to show people what I've done or like what I'm doing. I don't know, like, yeah, because I assume that nobody wants to do it. Like right now, you have me a guest on your podcast. Nobody asks me to be on a guest. I got to have 5 different podcasts just so I can talk to people.
That's wild though, because like you've got a skill set that I just never have on here.
Like a sound guy.
Yeah, and it's one that I'm interested in. Like I almost feel inadequate having you on because I don't have enough like knowledge. Like, God, I really hate recycling stories on this podcast because like I'm just assuming that if you heard, one podcast and you've heard another, but the fact that I'm at the point where I am unconsciously incompetent when it comes to sound. And it means
pretty good to me. The mic looks pretty good.
Well, hey, it glows. That's about all I can really tell you, and it tilts. Look at this. See that?
Oh, look at that.
It tilts. So you can't really fuck with me right now. But the thing about it is I just don't know the questions to ask to get to the information that I want to know. And But if anybody can tell me, you can tell me, right?
Yeah, I mean, sounds like it wasn't something that like I went to even school for. Like I kind of like fell into it. Like I went to film school for directing, and then we also worked as each other's crew members. And I don't know, I didn't like being a gaffer or a grip, and I didn't want to work with cameras. So I just kind of me and my sound teacher were friends, and I just learned sound through that, and then somehow turned into work after film school.
Well, it's wild you say that, because when I saw that you went to the New York Film Academy, is that the right name?
Yeah.
So, like, I guess if you don't go to NYU, that's the place to go for film.
Yeah, I mean, for me, because what I went for was a 1-year intensive course. So it was a whole year, no breaks. And it's just like learning set work. And I was like, perfect. Because I was already, like I said earlier, we talked about I was a shitty student. So I didn't like, after high school, like I did like kind of all right in high school. And then I didn't go to college after when I graduated. And then I tried to go to like community college, and I was just so fucking, I was just miserable, And then, I don't know, film is the passion. I didn't think I could do it. And then found this school. Somebody at a party once was like, hey, you heard about this school? And then I applied for it, and then, got in.
It's funny how that works. You assume like I can't do this unless I have somebody sit down and formally show me. Like I can't just have a buddy come over, because I don't trust my buddy enough to not leave holes in the lessons, right? I don't.
That's who my friends were, because I grew up in Long Island. If I try to get them to do any sort of movie, it'd been terrible. I would never made anything. I tried to have
you guys would have been out in your backyard cosplaying the Warriors or something. You don't want to do that. You definitely don't want to do that. No, but in seriousness, it's like people leave blind spots, and like we have, friends who like Brandon Bassam. He has his screenwriting.
I did sound on one scene of Bringing the Damned.
Yeah, I did read that. I was going to ask you about that, but he's doing his screenwriting course. And I was like, see, that's the kind of thing I need. Like, I need somebody to formally...
Yeah, and he's a great writer. So it's not... And I know my friend Nicole, who's also on my podcast, she took his class too, and she loved it.
Hey, before I get in trouble for mispronouncing the last name, what is that last name?
Matarese.
Good God, this wasn't even close to how I was going to say it. Because I'm just assuming, without assuming, that eventually all you schmucks are going to be on this podcast. I'm going to beg you all to
I hope so. Yeah, and she's great. She was a friend from Long Island. I actually roped her into all this nonsense. See, like I knew her before film school, before anything, and just roped her into everything.
I mean, that's great though. You have to do that. I mean, you want to do things with your friends. Like my very best friend, in the world, he's we're into different things. He's tried to rope me into coming on to help him coach football, like maybe do the defense or the offense or whatever it was he wanted me to do. But like, that's not flying. That's just not me. I would do a favor for him if he needed me, like in a pinch.
As long as it's not some sort of like Ponzi scheme, or then you can tell your friends
where I need to recruit 2 coaches as well.
Exactly.
I could never. But I mean, I do love sports, but do I love it enough to like take people's kids who I don't love and teach them to play a sport? And I don't know that I have the patience, B, the time, or C, the desire to do it. But I want to do things with my friend, my best friend. And like what I eventually did was I had a different podcast called Slashers and Screamers. We did that for about a year, and where we would just take films that we randomly chose out of the air and do kind of a humorous, comical review of it. Didn't want to be too serious. At times it came off as serious. I didn't want it to ever be serious, but it did kind of seem that way at times. And then it just kind of ran its course, and that stopped. And I'm back doing this thing for Slasher Sports, which is what. So I mean, you have to do things like that, but you want to bring your friends along. And it's good that you did that with Nicole.
And then her also getting along with my trauma friends too. So it just kind of was just, I don't know, we did the podcast. I just kind of threw everyone kind of at each other, even though Leo and Ben knew each other.
Sure.
And it was still like not like all of us really hung out and talked like that all the time. And now it's been like 2 years, all of us meeting every week on Skype, and we still have yet to even do one show in person. So it's just crazy to me. And and working with your friends is just, I don't know, it's awesome. Like even with Ben I've worked with my friends on other productions that aren't even like our productions. and it's never as fun, you know. And it's just like I'd rather work for nothing than at least be with my friends than something terrible that's paying well.
Yeah, I can get down that. And when you bring up your podcast, we're talking about Totally Tunular. Yeah.
Yes, Totally Tunular.
Yeah.
Almost
Tell me
at
about it.
100 episodes. I mean, it started off because I was trying to work on this cartoon for like I'm still working on it with my brother, but we kind of hit a point where we kind of hit a wall because you know animation is pretty hard, and we made a concept. I didn't like it, so we spent a little money. So we're like, all right, we got to like relax a bit. But when I work on shit, I tend to watch things that are like exist around it. So I was watching more animated stuff than I wanted to, but I didn't want to stop. You know, like I was having too much fun watching Batman the animated series. So I was like, but I can't just you know, be in my 30s and just keep watching Batman. And so I was like, what if I like convince my friends to come on? And like Leo, we always talked about doing a podcast together when we started at Trauma. Same with Ben. Ben was like the dude I always talked to with about podcast. And Nicole, I always talked to about every other movie and show. So it was like, let's see if these people will do it. And my main goal was 10 episodes. I was like, let's just get through 10 episodes. You know, everyone was like, well, what if we can do this YouTube? We can make some merch. We do all this. I was like, let's just do 10. And then here we are now, almost 2 years, 100 episodes. It's crazy. And it's amazing. I just love it. Like, you know, there's not a lot of stakes. We don't really make any money, but I hopefully soon, you know.
Well, this, like you just said, though, I mean, it's a labor of love, first of all. And if you can't do it for, you know, for that, then it's not really worth doing.
And it's great to know that like adults do love cartoons because we've had like a bunch of guests on too. Like you can come on too sometime, you know, when we start scheduling guests again soon, and just hearing all these different people who come on and all these awesome different opinions. And we have had guests who we usually let our guests pick the shows, and they've picked shows I never thought I would even watch in my life, or I thought, oh, that's not going to hold up anymore. It's going to suck. Like, what was it? There was a show on Amazon called Undone. Like, have you ever heard of that show?
Never.
Right. It's like I had no idea what it was, but it stars Bob Odenkirk. But we watched it and it was amazing. And I would have never watched it if the guest who came on didn't recommend it. So,
well, I mean, I'm in already. I love Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah, and it's all rotoscope too. So they kind of like film the show and then they rotoscope over all.
And this is old? This is an old?
That was brand new. It came out like 2 years ago.
What?
Yeah, and the second season just came out too.
See, this is the problem with me, that if it's not horror, I kind of write it off, you know?
And that was another thing too. I was watching a lot of horror, you know, I'm a big horror guy. And so when I started watching more cartoons, I was like, well, I don't know, I got to get this shit out of my brain so I can keep watching, you know, kind of both stuff.
Yeah. So, well, hey, if the guests are picking the show, if you guys haven't done, well, do you do old cartoons or just like
everything? We're open to everything. My only rule, we have one rule, and it's no anime.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't dare.
If you cross that line, I mean, I like anime too, but you cross that line, you don't come back from it, you know?
Yeah, if you even offered, it would be a hard no. Yeah, because like my favorite anime is Bugs Bunny. Okay, that's where I am.
And we've done Looney Tunes before.
Well, hell, if you ever found time to do Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling.
Oh, we have not done that yet. And
See, I'm with that because I used to eat that shit up. I would have to go back and, you know, re-binge it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like from the teenage years and the childhood, I could talk wrestling all day, and in animated form, it's, you know, it was the tits, man. I'm telling you.
I wish there was more wrestling. I was trying to like find like wrestling cartoons, and that was like literally the only one I found. That and like Mucho.
There is something though. It was on the WWE network. I don't know if it's still a thing. I don't really watch the WWE network anymore since it's like moved to Peacock.
Yeah, I only watch it for my friend has Peacock, so I just watch it for the pay-per-views.
Yeah, the pay-per-views, exactly. You could leave it alone all month and watch a pay-per-view, and it's paid for itself, and you know, threefold or whatever. But they used to have something like it was like a storyteller type thing.
Oh yes, because Ric Flair got in trouble. They pulled it because of Ric Flair.
Is that why they pulled it?
Yeah, well, they pulled an episode. I know that because there's one of him on a plane talking about like stripping naked. And they do like an animated sequence of it, and then, you know, the dark side of the ring.
Absolutely. So yeah, there's that one that's telling the road stories.
Yeah.
Then there was another one called like Camp WWE, where it was
I do. I try to watch that when it came out. I don't know. It was probably the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt. I think the whole model for WWE and why the E went into WWE, other than the fact that, what was it, the World Wildlife Foundation or whatever it was?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Like when, of course, they took the name, but
Yeah.
like the E, stands for entertainment. Vince McMahon has always, always, always wanted to do more than wrestling, which is why he had a music company for a while, named after one of his kids.
I've seen his music video before.
Oh yeah, they used to do the music videos all the time, and that's why the rock and wrestling connection happened. He wanted to get in, get his foot in that door. And then there was WWE Films, which before it even had WWE Films
in theaters when it came out.
The Marine. Okay, so going back even further to No Holds Barred with Hulk Hogan and Zeus, which was a Tiny Lister. Yeah, R.I.P. Tiny Lister, man. He was a fantastic guy.
Yeah. They brought him in too, right? Then they bring him in as the character.
They brought him in as the fictional character that was written, even after he had been in like numerous films. Like, I know this guy. He's in credits as a completely different name. It was never Zeus. It was quite the opposite. It was Tiny Lister, and they just
Hulk Hogan was still Hulk Hogan. He wasn't even right. He wasn't even.
They may have used his first name. Like, they might have said Terry Hulk Hogan as Rip.
Yeah.
But they didn't. Like, the fact is, his last name isn't Hogan, it's Balea. So, like, if you're going to go with the actor role, you give it a little bit of reality and call him Terry. But
that's why John Cena's lucky. You can just use his name.
Is that his real last name?
Yeah, as far as I've known. I mean, I've looked it up. Someone else could.
I've never heard any different.
Yeah, I know. If you go, I don't know if it's still there. If you go on John Cena's Wikipedia, it says like his name, John Cena, and then it says in Mexico, Juan Cena.
God, that is crazy. Because Cena is a Spanish word. It means dinner. So I'm surprised they didn't do anything with that.
Oh yeah,
that's clever though. I like that.
Yeah, someone do that on Wikipedia. But yeah, I mean, good for him to have that name and not have to like have a different wrestling persona.
Yeah, because McMahon would do that, and basically, with everybody, anybody that comes in, no matter how established you are, if your name isn't Ric Flair, you're basically gonna have to.
Do you still keep up with everything going on? Do you still watch wrestling at all?
Nah, I'll watch the pay-per-views like with my best friend James.
Games, there's like famously right now. There's Pete Dunne, who's fucking superstar. And Butch, yeah, they fucking bring him up as Butch and put him in like a wife beater and like straps and, like,
and a little rascal's hat, and it's bananas because like I could understand if he was in a rival company, made his name, and they want to bring him over to trademark a new name.
Yeah,
I get it. If you're that anal about copyrights, yeah. So like I could understand if they did that with like rival companies. Bringing somebody who you can trademark, but they're doing it within their own company.
Yeah, they've built up Pete Dunne for like how many years now? Like he literally started to get like 20.
The bruiserweight.
Yeah.
Pete Dunne. And then they do it with the most egregious form that they've done this with is when they did this with LA Knight.
Oh, okay?
Yeah. So LA Knight was actually an NWA. Right,
he was crushing it. Yeah, I remember seeing
absolutely crushing it. He was Eli Drake, and he was he was the hottest thing in NWA, or at least the up and coming. He hadn't yet won any titles or anything like that, but you could tell
that's why he got signed, because he was blowing up. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But then COVID happened, and when they basically had to shut down operations for months or whatever it was. They lost everybody. They lost Thunder Rosa. They lost Eli Drake. They lost Ricky Starks.
Damn.
They lost everybody basically, except for the guys who were really loyal to the company, like a Nick Aldis. But I mean, that not to go too crazy into the wrestling thing. But when WWE signed Eli Drake, I
never get to talk about wrestling. I never get guests on who talk about I literally never talk about wrestling on a podcast. Ever.
Well, I had a wrestling podcast, but it was NWA, and it really didn't get hot. People, they don't support indie wrestling like they should. They don't, support indie film like they should.
I try to support. We get a lot of hardcore wrestling out here, and then there's like something called outlaw wrestling, which is like an indie promotion. So I always try to go out and support when I can, you know?
Yeah, man. I mean, they're creators of their own path, you
Mhm.
know, and like, who says we have to stick to the monopolized, companies? Like sometimes the backyard, I don't want to call it backyard wrestling, but these outlaw mud shows, like they call them,
Yeah.
they can be fun. I went to a pay-per-view, an NWA pay-per-view not long ago, the Crockett Cup. It was a few pay-per-views ago, but it was right here in Nashville. It was a 2-night event. It was fantastic. Saw more talent in the NWA that I'd seen because I was just picking it back up, and had the absolute
Was
best
Cardona
time.
the champ?
Who was the champ? Cardona was the champ. Yes.
Nice.
He was being challenged by Aldis, but the main thing,
Long Island homie, you know,
that's a fact.
He grew up around where I was living in Long Island.
Man, he might be my favorite guy in NWA right now. But he was defending against Nick Aldis with Jeff Jarrett, who's a local guy here.
Yeah, Jeff Jarrett, of course.
Yeah, from Hendersonville, Tennessee. He was the special guest ref. They had a screw job finish, or not really a screw job finish, but like a weird Dusty Rhodes finish. But it was still the best thing ever. The Crockett Cup was really the attraction. Like all these tag teams.
Who won the Crockett Cup?
The Briscoes.
Briscoes, nice.
Yeah, so they won it. At the time, the tag champs were La Rebellion, Mecca Wolf and Damian's kid, Bestia 666. But they were the champs, and they got put out in the semifinals. They didn't even make it to the finals, so it made it really interesting story-wise. And it was Davey Boy Smith's kid and Doug Williams who made it to the finals.
Yeah, okay.
Which makes me think Nick Aldis was originally scheduled to make it to the finals, but he got pulled. He was supposed to be the partner of Doug Williams.
Was he injured? Or?
No, who got pulled out of the main event from facing Cardona? Somebody was supposed to face Cardona and got pulled.
Yeah, I guess I remember, yeah. And
then Aldis took over, and I can't remember who it was. I don't think it was Murdoch. It doesn't matter.
I remember. I think he got injured at one point, right? At a certain point, Murdoch.
Maybe, but somebody had to step out. Aldis stepped in. It was a great main event.
Did you go to Ric Flair's last match in Nashville?
I did.
Did.
I usually don't go to big events like that.
Yeah,
it was a whole clusterfuck, man. It was a great show, first of all, okay, because like there was a lot
at you. That whole like card leading up was just like, let's just throw all these names in tag teams. Just throw everyone.
So they had people come from everywhere. Ring of Honor, Triple A, Lucha Libre. Actually, I'd tell you who was there. Killer Cross was there.
Oh, sick.
And this was just a cup of coffee before he re-signed.
Because he still was. Yeah, he wrestled actually down the block from me. There's like a brewery that hosts wrestling shows, and I was like, Killer Cross is there. That's sick. Because he's been off TV for a couple months. I was like, he's right down the block.
It's so surprising how much they get around. Like if you kept up with one promotion like that was local,
yeah,
and then you happen to go on vacation somewhere, and somebody said, "Hey, man, I got a couple of wrestling tickets. You want them? I'm not going." You might see people that you see locally.
Yeah, I wish I could remember the wrestler's name, so I apologize, whoever it is. But Ben Johnson, one time, we were working on this movie called The Reenactment out in Nashville, and we had a day off, and there was an indie wrestling show going on in Kentucky. It wasn't like too far of a drive. There was like 30 whatever minutes it was, and then we go there, and I see this tag team wrestle, and then I now skip to like months later. I'm in Queens going to MLW, and then one of those dudes who was a tag team there is on MLW. I was like, what? I literally saw him in a VFW hall, and here he is, like in the semi-big, arena in Queens.
Yeah, well, it's second tier at least. It might not be like top tier like WWE and AEW, but it's MLW, definitely second.
Yeah,
it's like the next level down.
Yeah,
that's wild. They travel like the carnival, man.
I bet. I mean, luckily too, working on we're in the shirt Curse of the Werdeer. A couple of wrestlers worked on that movie, and so it was just I love just talking wrestlers and picking their brain. Like actually the reenactment, James Storm was one of the actors on it. He was like the lead killer in the movie. So, and James Storm is a dude I watched growing up watching TNA Impact, and I had his action figure. So he just showed up on set one day, and I love just asking him questions all day about wrestling. And then he signed a beer bottle for me.
He's from here, I believe. Maybe not Murfreesboro, Tennessee, but maybe like Brentwood or something.
Yeah, I mean, he drove the set every day, so I'm assuming he lived somewhere around.
Oh,
there.
you were talking about here. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah, Nashville.
My bad.
Yeah, it was in Nashville. I mean, I was down in Nashville working with Ben and James Storm. He's like, "Oh, we got a wrestler today," and then James Storm shows up.
Was that on the 48?
No, this was a feature we did called the reenactment back in like summer of 2019.
You said the reenactment. Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's wild though, because first of all, yeah, Nadia is doing her thing.
Nadia, yeah, she just announced she was wrestling. It's crazy because she told me about it. I remember when she was starting off, she was just like, "Oh yeah, I'm getting into this wrestling thing. I can't wait to do it." And then I saw her post about it. Yeah, like a week or two ago, whatever it was. I was like, "That's sick. I wish I can go."
I saw like an unrelated tweet, like it wasn't tagged in it. I don't know if she shared it, honestly, but I saw it on Twitter and I was like, Jesus, Nadia's everywhere. Like she's doing her, she's doing her own thing. She's got a path that is like unique.
Awesome to work with. Like on Weird Deer, like she was just great.
That's what Ben said. Like she was like next level when it came to
and
ideas. And
as like a sound guy, part of my job is I have to mic up actors. I got to like touch them all over and put the wire around them and like tape it up on them. And sometimes, I don't be awkward. But even sometimes I don't put it in the right spot. So I have to like go back and like fix it. But she's always cool about it. She'll let me just, do whatever to fix the mic and like didn't ask questions like, "Hey, I got to fix it." And she fixed it. And, if it didn't fit, I can hide it somewhere else around her. And it was just Yeah, she was just awesome. And it was always a good time. It was always telling jokes. She likes to make fun of me because my favorite band is Sum 41. So all she does is like just rip on me Sum 41 jokes all day.
I'm probably on her side with this one. Probably on her side. I'm just spitballing. So tell me about that that milestone you got coming up, the 100th episode. What date is that going to fall on? Do you have something nailed down?
January 4th. Live January 4th. It's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be on Twitch. It's going to be on Facebook. In the next couple weeks, I'm announcing more stuff. We're trying to build up to it. We're calling it the live episode. What was it? Totally Tune Your 100th Live Extravaganza. So there's gonna be a bunch of shit going on. We're gonna have a lot of stuff. I can't announce it yet because I'm trying to progress it. But there's a poll right now on our Instagram, or when you listen, whenever this comes out, the poll's still gonna be there. We're letting people vote on what show we're gonna watch. So we have.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, I mean you can vote right now. It's between Cat Dog, which is Ben's pick, mine, the Teen Titans, Nicole's Beavis and Butthead, and Leo's Captain Planet.
Wait, I already voted on this.
You did? Oh,
yeah, I did. Yeah, I did vote on that. I don't know why I spaced on that. Yeah, I've already voted. I don't even know if I want to tell you what I voted. Okay, I'll tell you then. Beavis and Butthead.
Nice.
Yeah, that was like if there was anything that defined my teen years when it comes to maybe the outside of sports, outside of horror, like it would be Beavis and
Butthead. Yeah.
Yeah. We were all doing impressions. We were all sneaking into Do America. We were all pissing off our parents because we watched it. Especially my parents would, they would let me watch it. But if they were in the room at the same time, I got nothing but scrutiny. Like, you find this fucking funny? And then, my parents would just completely tap out when the music videos came on. It was just a different vibe for that show. Nothing was like Beavis and Butthead at the time.
I believe
absolutely nothing.
Mike Judge is one of my favorite, creators out there. I love that dude. Everything that guy puts out is always fucking awesome. Like Idiocracy, one of my favorite movies ever.
Fact, and he was on Rogan not long ago. And
oh, really? I never listened. I didn't even know that.
When I say not long ago, I mean like in the last 3 months at least. I was in the gym listening to it, and listen, I'm one of those weirdos who might listen to like Gordon Lightfoot while I'm working out because I don't care anything about fast-paced, hard-hitting music while I'm working out. I want to be sound of mind, and that's going to do it for me. Sometimes I'll put on a podcast. It might be Theo Vaughn, and I might laugh like really hard and drop the weight on my chest. That happened a couple of times.
Oh, damn.
But listening to the Mike Judge interview was like, man, it is so good hearing his voice.
Yeah, because that guy is just so innovative. He's just always doing something, whether it's like, because it could be more dramery or he does like Silicon Valley is also like one of my favorite shows ever. And it's so different than Beavis and Butthead, but it's like, it's so perfectly, he just knows how to encapsulate people I don't know how else, even like King of the Hill, that could be the most boring show ever, and he knows how to make that awkward, just perfect funny.
But there's always a story.
Yeah, exactly.
With King of the Hill.
Story,
always.
yeah.
I remember like being absolutely touched by one episode of King of the Hill, and it was the one where Luann's boyfriend came to visit her after he died, and they're jumping on the trampoline, and it's like, God, man, that's like incredible writing.
Psalm 41 is it an episode of King of the Hill?
Oh, bullshit.
They're in the
just wanted to talk about Sum 41 again.
They're in the Christian rock band thing. The one that Bobby tried to say, he's like, oh, look at this cool church, and like the Christian band they're skateboarding with is Sum 41.
God, I don't know how I missed that, or maybe I didn't miss it. I just didn't place that it was Sum 41.
Didn't care.
Well, I would have cared. I promise I would have cared, because it would have. I was heavily influenced by if I saw something on King of the Hill, I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out what this is. And like I went and checked out Chuck Mangione because of King of the Hill, and like those polka records or whatever the fuck it is that he does. I think it's, I don't know, it's like some soothing trumpet music or clarinet. I don't know what it is, but I didn't pick it up for very long. But man, you're right. Mike Judge is probably, I don't know, could he be like the most iconic innovator that came from that time period? I don't know.
Probably, because I mean, he's still going and hasn't offended anyone yet. Like,
you know what though? He heavily offended people with Beavis and Butthead.
I bet.
Like kids were like, they were censoring his shows. Like he couldn't even say the word fire in one of his episodes. Like there's a
fire.
Because there were kids burning shit down because of things that they saw on Beavis and Butthead. So there's actually a line in one of the episodes where Beavis is like, fire, fire, pants on. Oh, whoa. And he purposely left out the word fire, and it was kind of like trolling the listening audience. If you go back and listen to like one of the earlier episodes, I believe it was volume 1 of the box set. It's on there somewhere.
I mean, do you see the new movie?
The newest one? No, I did not see it yet, and I've saved it. I don't know what I'm saving it for. I'm probably alone time because nobody will watch it with me. It's definitely not going to be like viewing with the parents.
Good.
Is it good?
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
Damn. See, that a lot of times remakes really lose me, especially when it comes decades later.
I am a massive Star Wars fan, so like I feel you.
Oh yeah, nobody feels me like you feel me right now. Then. I mean, just think about it though. Dumb and Dumber.
I saw that. I saw it in theaters too. The sequel. I was like, why? I was mad.
And we're talking about the recent one with Carrie and Daniels, right? It was actually the third one because there was a stupid one in the middle, like a prequel.
One. Yeah,
what was it called?
Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, When Harry Met Lloyd, right?
Yeah, the prequel movie. I remember loving it when I was a kid, but I haven't watched that movie in years. I do remember Bob Saget in it, and he just gets really mad at the kid because he keeps thinking he's shitting everywhere. He's like, "You're shit all over my car. You're shit everywhere."
God damn it, man. Bob Saget, R.I.P. to him too.
Yeah.
Well, so you can't tell us who's going to be on your 100th episode.
Yeah,
right?
I'm announcing it next week.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not just one guest. We got a couple of guests coming on. And it's going to be, I said, a live extravaganza. I've never done this before in my life. Say like starting with even doing sound. I didn't know what I was doing. I just kind of learned it. And then, now I'm doing it 5 years. And then podcasting, I don't know. I bought a mic once and now I got like a full mixer and I got this mic. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to keep doing it. And with this live stream, I have no idea what I'm doing. Or like,
dude, this is kind of the MO of you guys though. And this is what I don't want to say motivates because I don't want to give you too much credit. I don't want your head to get big, but you guys really do motivate me with your thought process. Shut up. With your thought processes, you really do, and like you just jumped in. You said, you know what? I don't know how to do it, but I'm going to try it, and if I fail, it's just going to sound like a bad podcast, but it's still going to be a podcast. You did the same thing with sound, and Ben was talking about how, listen, if you want to make a thing, go make a thing. Nobody's going to stop you. No matter how bad it is, it's not going to be like worse than Birth of a Nation. So like there's nothing that you can do that's going to be like, they're not going to put you on trial for it unless it's a snuff film. And that's, that's debatable.
Yeah, it's
But
debatable. But
yeah,
like for me, one of my heroes is Kevin Smith. And like I just remember listening to one podcast, or it might have been a live show he was doing, but he was like, "Yeah, podcasting is the easiest thing to do in the world. It's like you just pick this up and you just talk. You just got to just do it. Just do it." And I was like, "All right, why not just do it?" And then that's why I was like, "Let's just do 10 episodes. Let's see where that takes us." And now I got totally tunular. Me and Ben have a podcast called Married with Ben and James, where we just rewatch Married with Children. Nicole has the show we put on there, and I got a blunt smoker video where now we just watch movies and smoke different strains of weed every day with my friend Stevie Lou and my roommate John. And then I have another one, Makes No Diff, where I just all these weird people I meet on sets, I get to hang out and record it. So I don't know. I just do it, and because nobody ever wants to be on their show, so I just have to just do it.
Well, I do have an idea for you to come back to this show. I'm going to tell you about that later.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, hey, you said it. It sounds awesome because it is revolving around sound. But yeah, I was really glad that you sent me some of the short films that you've worked on. I mean, I've been
thanks. Yeah, sometimes
no
I get
doubt
direct stuff.
Of course, yeah. But I mean, I've been trying to watch more, short films.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the psychology behind a good short film, it
hard.
intrigues me. Yeah, it is.
Because I've worked on a lot, just doing sound, and it's hard,
Well, I mean, I started getting more into shorts with Ben Schatzel coming on.
Yeah, shout out Ben Schatzel. Yeah, I worked
shout out
a couple times on Wet Works and Where Deer.
Yeah, so like big ups to Stack Deck Productions. But he came on to talk about his film Remission. And then Patrick Ray, I don't know if you know him, but he came on to talk about his feature They Wait in the Dark. But then after that, he introduced me to the short film called It's Hell Getting Old. It's about these two old couples in an elevator, and it just kind of starts spiraling out of control. It's really funny, but then there's Ferdita, directed by Carlota Pereda, and many, many others. So now, just like Ferdita turned into a feature film called Piggy, very
I've
recently.
Seen the poster for that somewhere.
You saw okay, so like basically the short Ferdita was the cold open of Piggy.
Oh, so you made the cold. That's like the movie Lights Out, because that had like a short that was like a cold open, and the dude won a contest and made that into the feature.
Yeah, so apparently that happens more than we would think. Boogie Nights itself was a short film.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Not the cold open, but it was had the guest on, so I had a guest on who was the original.
I mean, it's not a bad idea, because people, especially let's say if you're like trying to make money or you're trying to pitch it to someone or anybody who's willing to give you anything, if you have a short film, then they can already see what that tone and what it's going to look like, even if it's not the whole story. Like Weird Deer is a trailer. It's like if you can cut something that people can just see, people, most of the time people like it's easier for them to see it in 5 minutes than to hear, like they don't want to read a full script immediately. You know what I mean? Or
exactly. It can be used as a concept, and that's what that's what Schatzel was talking about. Like shorts can be used as a concept, and just like in Remission, he left that very open ended, and like it could be a feature film. I think it was, I think it had plenty of legs. It could run, but I'm just some schmuck with a podcast. I don't, make decisions on
schmucks.
Films.
All right. We're all schmucks.
Okay. Well, I'm a schmuck who hasn't yet made a film. And yes, but fact is, like, I think there's a lot of things that you could do to repurpose a short film. And even if it stays, there at face value, it's still a film, and it's a short form factor film that it seems like today's generation kind of needs, because they can't seem to watch anything longer than 20 minutes without picking up their phone.
20 minutes. Yeah. It's
20 is generous.
Yeah, exactly. 20 is way generous. It kind of annoys me. That's why I don't have TikTok or any of that. Like, just kind of like, I mean, I don't know. It makes me sound like a boomer, but it always annoys me when I'm like, this fucking video that's like 3 seconds long will get a million views, and my short film maybe a couple hundred.
Well, listen, I'm not trying to sit here and tell anybody how to blow up their YouTube channel, and I'm terrible about doing this because I really never do it. This episode is going to be like you and me, right? for however long it is. Maybe I'll cut out some, 2-minute, 3-minute clips, depending on what we end up talking about. I mean, hell, that whole wrestling conversation could be another video in itself.
Yeah, I can talk about wrestling all day. Don't even
I have zero doubt about that because like you didn't just fuck around with, oh yeah, I'm watching, MLW. Okay, well, if you're watching MLW, then you know what you're talking about, because nobody's just going to voluntarily do that as a casual wrestling fan. But like my partner at Slasher Sports, Christian Rao, he does it all the time. He'll shoot like an hour-long video. Him and Steve Feck talking college football, college basketball, and the little segment where they talk about two specific teams, or maybe even one specific team, or maybe one free agent. They'll just clip that one part and make it its own separate video. So you're going to have the bulk video if you so desire, but you're also going to have those minute-long videos, and those not minute-long videos, but 5-minute-long videos over a specific topic.
Yeah,
and those topics will blow up.
Yeah, and I've seen that. I mean, that's how I watch videos too. You know what I mean? Like, I've probably seen more clips from Joe Rogan's podcast than listening to a full show.
That's fair.
Not,
because you see it on
like on YouTube.
You see it on YouTube, you see it on TikTok, whatever it is that you're watching.
And I'm like, we kind of do the same thing with Totally Tooting You There. Like, I put out like a minute out on as a promo.
Sure.
Yeah, we just haven't done the YouTube thing yet, and that's probably what. Actually, I guess I'll after the plan, because we're going to make a YouTube because of the live stream. So after that, then I'll probably get into throwing out clips to see if anyone try to get something to pop in some way.
I think you can, though. I think you can, because
for me too, I don't like editing down my podcast. I don't
either
conversations that I have with people, and like sometimes shit gets kind of fucked up. Especially when you're talking with Ben, and his dog Nicole too. Their dogs will just start barking. Sometimes Leo has to run off and go do something, or whatever it is.
I'm unfamiliar with such a thing.
And sometimes I give Ben shit because I like to eat in the podcast. I'm like, stop eating on the show, god damn it!
What are you doing over there? Wrapping presents?
Yeah.
God.
But at the same time, I love that natural conversation. I don't like to cut it down like that.
Yeah, I podcast for the people who are working in an office with their earbuds in and have to kill 8 hours of the day.
Yeah,
and I can give them an hour of it, at the very least.
Yeah, when I used to one of my first jobs, or for a while, I worked with dogs. I was like, I was literally in a room full of, it was like a dog daycare center. Once it was a half of it. I worked at PetSmart, and then I worked at like a independent place in Manhattan too. But it was like a dog daycare center. So I'm just in this room all day. So I would just listen to the podcast. You know what I mean? Whatever. Like that's what helped me through the long days. So I don't know if we can do that. That'd be fucking awesome.
Which podcast did you cut your teeth on though? Because I know you remember your first one.
Yeah, it was Smodcast, this podcast called Schmoes Know, and Jericho's podcast.
Oh, the Jericho, great. I like Jericho's podcast.
I haven't listened to it in a minute, but yeah, I used to listen to that religiously.
I usually only listen to theirs, and I'm talking about theirs as in his, Austin's, when they have like an old wrestler on.
Okay, yeah. Because he has Bruno Sammartino. That's awesome.
Oh, that would be sick. Yeah, that would be sick. The Stone Cold's podcast, he had an old guy from like the 80s named Eric Embry, probably the most entertaining one that I've listened to of Stone Cold Steve Austin. And cool. Like Eric Embry was mid-card guy at best.
I can't even think of who that is at all.
Yeah, if you saw him, if he slapped you in the face, you probably wouldn't even recognize him. He was, he was down here in Tennessee with Lawler and all those guys for a while. But that's just kind of how it is. I listen for the specific guest, which is probably, not appreciated by the host, but it is what it is. I listened to the Rogan podcast with Dan Aykroyd probably 2 or 3 times, and never once did they talk about acting. That I can remember. They talked about Aykroyd's UFO experiences.
Have you listened to Steve-O's podcast at all?
Never.
Like he has one, him and Kevin Smith, and they don't talk about movies literally at all. They just start talking about life and death and what happens like after you die and stuff like that.
Because their lives are basically encompassed by movies and film and TV. And when you're, you hit that record button, maybe you want to talk about something else. Yeah. Maybe Aykroyd doesn't want to talk about Nothing But Trouble or Spies Like Us, because he's done it a million times. But how many people are actually asking him about his UFO
conspiracies or whatever
experiences? Yeah, he said he woke up in like France or something, or he didn't randomly wake up in France. He was like in France.
But did he really think he was abducted by aliens?
He thinks that he saw alien craft while he was pissing off a balcony on vacation, wherever he was. It might not have been France. I probably made that up. It seems like it was France, though. But he says he's had like multiple experiences, and nothing turns me off to UFO experiences quite like hearing a person who's already super interested in UFOs.
Kind of expecting it. They're already ready for it.
Right. It's kind of like
an alien.
It's kind of like that, that kid who swore he was part Wolverine because he loves the X-Men. It's like, okay, weirdo, go sit with somebody else. But yeah, hearing Aykroyd talk about it was different because it was just something that I hadn't heard before. So
yeah, I mean,
I had to give it a shot.
That's why I started doing this, my own like kind of weird podcast, like Makes No Diff, because I love having those kind of conversations with people. And I had this guy, he's a good buddy of mine. He's a good buddy now. I met him recently, but we worked a lot in tandem together. We worked with Brandon a lot too. I think it was Matt Weir. I don't know, maybe you know him, but
I do not know Matt Weir.
He's a super cool dude. He's an effects guy, art department. Also worked for the WWE, so I talked to him about that. He was a writer.
Get him on
for like a year, but he was also a skater. I didn't know that before that. We were just talking about horror and wrestling and whatever. And then we'd have like most of the podcast was about skating because I never get to talk about skating. And that's the kind of shit that that's what I like talking about. Then it's like you're hanging out with people and it's not, I don't know, you don't want too formal, where I don't want to cut shit out.
Yeah, never. And it's funny because I read that it wasn't like I think it was on Facebook. Dixie, you know Dixie, right?
Yeah, Dixie Girls.
So she commented on Ben Johnson's post about our podcast episode, and she said there were a lot of squirrel moments, but it was a fun conversation. And what she meant by squirrel moments were like
squirrel moments.
Yeah, well, I didn't know either, but she shared a clip of I don't know which cartoon it's from, but it's like one where like a dog is talking to somebody and he's a squirrel. And then he's talking to
just kind of go off or whatever, yeah.
Right, just going off on different things.
And they call them side quests on Totally.
Yeah, I like side quests. I'm a gamer. I'll go with side quests. Yeah, so like we've done some side quests here. I don't even think we've touched the main story. So
what's the main story?
Well, there's not one, but let's talk about SuperRad for a moment. Like, SuperRad. That's your new project. Yeah,
it's a feature. It's in pre-pro. I sent you the storyboards. They're drawn by the awesome Ben Terry. He was the AD on Curse the Weird. That's where I met him. And he was like, oh, yeah, I want to be a cartoonist. And then he sent me some stuff. And I was like, hey, you think you can draw these storyboards? Because we were trying to do something like 3D. And we kind of got a little ahead of ourselves. And we're like, oh, we can't figure this out. So let's backtrack to the storyboard stuff. But SuperRad, I got the idea from, it was actually two. We did the trailer for Curse of the Weird Deer. My roommate John Bergio just kind of threw an idea at me.
Wait, Bergio is your roommate?
Yeah, John Bergio. He's my roommate, the star of Secret of Cuck Island.
Yeah, he's your current roommate?
Yeah, we filmed that movie. All the scenes you see in the living room, that's my apartment.
Jesus Christ, I didn't realize that.
No, yeah,
I was going to talk him up later on too.
Yeah, I can talk about Cuck Island all day. Spent my entire COVID summer on that. I went right from Cuck Island to Curse of the Weird. You're right, those 2 years together. But with SuperRad, John gave me the idea. He was like, "What if there was I forgot exactly how he pitched it, but it was like, oh, what if there was a mayor who decides to fake a superhero? He wants to raise money for a town." And I'm a big superhero nerd, and like that idea came in my brain. I was like, "That's incredible! Small town movie. We can have like a big town action, And I've done horror so often, and then it was like I wanted to kind of step away and like dive into like my superhero routes that I love so much. And then also this movie, even though you don't see it so much in the storyboards I sent you, but it also has like this kind of emotional crutch to it. It's the movie about loss in a lot of ways. It's like, 'cause I had lost my dad a couple of years ago, and so it's about like this kid growing up, like he had just lost his dad, and it's also like he's going away, he's leaving high school, so it's also like the loss of losing your friends, your girlfriend, and how you deal with that, while also being this weird, filling with all the dick jokes and the superhero stuff and wrestling in there.
So would you say that this is kind of a cathartic experience as well? Maybe processing that loss in a formal public kind of way?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't that was definitely wasn't my intent. Like honestly, like first I pitched it, I was like, oh, this sounds like a pretty easy, like, oh, we can write this a couple months, like it'd be fun, super easy. And I just kept kind of go into it, thinking about the character. And then, I started thinking about, well, like a lot of superheroes, most of them don't have a parent or one parent or whatever. And I was like, well, I started thinking about myself, and not that I don't want to say the character's based off me because it's not in any way, but it was just
Sure.
that idea, and like, yeah, and I ended up working through shit on my own that I didn't like because the end of it, without spoiling it, like he just has this realization of whatever, and then like when I realized that, that's when I was able to realize it in the script, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Perfect sense. I mean, you didn't set out to do it, but it kind of just came. And I think the word for that, James, is organic.
Yeah.
And,
I guess.
and,
yeah.
And I can really respect that. I mean, I don't often talk about, personal stuff on my podcast because, I like to keep it fun. But, I also lost my dad back in 2005.
Oh,
okay?
yeah.
I'd only been home from the military for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Okay?
Yeah, that's
So
sorry to hear that.
No, it's all right. I mean, I've had time,
Yeah,
2005.
Yeah.
But the wild thing about it is, I graduated high school, went directly to the Navy, and spent 4 years away. Okay, so I didn't really see anybody.
That's tough, dude. Just to be
came home. Yeah, came home twice. Once for a holiday, saw my dad, once, right?
Yeah.
And I came home in 2005. 6 months later, he's passed away. And not long after that, there was one and only one musical artist who we agreed was listenable for the both of us. Okay. And that was Johnny Cash.
Nice.
We were both good with Johnny Cash. I liked all of Johnny Cash. He only liked the old Sun recordings. Hey, get rhythm.
Yeah.
All that bullshit. So, I'd get in my dad's car and he'd be, bopping to, Rock Island Line or something like that. And let me just rewind back to, maybe around the time that I'm 3-4 years old. My dad used to sing to me out of this hymnal. It was a green colored hardbound book, pretty thin.
Okay.
With gold ribbony lettering. I don't even know how the fuck to describe this lettering, but it's like dark green and gold letters, right? It was called Heavenly Highway Hymns. And if you're a hillbilly like me, you've probably heard of Heavenly Highway Hymns.
Yeah, I'm not familiar as a.
No, I wouldn't expect it. It's probably a very local thing. However, when it wasn't long after my dad passed away that the film Walk the Line came out with Joaquin Phoenix and Reese Witherspoon. Well, there's a scene where Johnny's leaving home. I don't remember where he's going. He might be moving to Memphis. He's going though.
It's been a minute since I've seen that movie.
Yeah, it's been same. So I don't remember exactly what he did. I know it wasn't like going to the military or anything like that, but it's something like that. A big goodbye, right? His mom comes out the front door, hands him a book, and I'll be goddamned if it's not Heavenly Highway Hymns. And you talk about like an organic experience. I didn't set out to relive any kind of any kind of memories with my dad by watching this film. I just wanted to watch the Johnny Cash story, right?
But now you got this connection to it.
Now I've got this connection to it, and like I won't ever forget it. So I can totally dig not walking into this project with the intent of it being a cathartic experience, but you're gonna have maybe some kind of connection there forever, other than the fact that you're directing it. Right?
Yeah,
so,
of course, yeah, and and it just. I guess that's what I've tried. By the time I realized that, I was like, wow, this is, and I always try to like, not like whatever. Like it's the cartoon I did with my brother. Like a lot of the main character too came from our dad, And like that also because my dad actually died right when I was shooting my thesis film for college. Like it was the day I was going to shoot my film. It was and then my brother too, and I just brought him on set with me. I was like, you're just gonna help me out on set, and we just shot the whole movie, and then literally went to the funeral like after that. Like we shot for 3 days. It was crazy, but so I always try to like put something in there. And for this, when we did SuperRad, like I said, I wasn't really thinking about it, and then it just like, oh well, he has this big moment, and especially between me and my dad, I don't know if it seems like you and your dad had a pretty good relationship. Me and my dad never had like the best relationship either, so it was like, how do I work that in there and like stuff like that. But I don't know, you kind of, at least with the point of the movie I was doing was that you don't really get over that kind of stuff, but a way to like accept it and like move on in life to be able to do, don't let it hold you back, because I feel like it was holding me back for a long time, because my dad also never saw any movie I made, because I said he died when I was in film school, so he never seen any of it. So I don't know, I guess I'm kind of losing my thought a little bit, but yeah, it's just like,
no, I dig it. I mean, that's really all that has to be said about it. It's an experience, and it's not going to go away. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. Do you already have your cast set?
No, not the cast set. Yeah, all the voice we have are just local people that I know. Actually, shout out to John Brennan. I don't know if you're a Joe Bob Briggs fan. He does the theme song for Joe Bob Briggs, him and Yuki. He's the guy who sings on guitar every episode. Brennan's a good friend of mine. So he did a bunch of voices on that storyboard, which is great. And we'll probably cast him too, but like I said, we're still in pre-pro. So like, I worked on a bunch of shoots without naming names, but like I wanted to like storyboard this whole thing out, because I've never done action scenes before. There's some stunts in there that is crazy. Like I put all my love into superheroes wrestling. The scene I sent you, like it's literally like luchador wrestlers versus superhero at a Power Ranger convention in a library. And it's like, I never done that shit before. So I was really trying to plan it all out and really kind of figure it out and try to at least test some of this and, make sure it works. Because I said, I meant this to be a small movie. And besides the cathartic experience, I ended up making some of this a lot bigger than I initially anticipated either.
So with that comes budget.
Yeah.
Have you already started a campaign?
Not yet. We're like I said, it's still pretty early on. We're trying to actually we're going to try to use this story. But once I sent you, that's our plan, is to use that as a way to start pitching, and that's what we're kind of working on right now. And our goal is we're going to have the whole movie drawn out and cut together. So there's going to be like what we're calling like the fake movie that I'm hoping going to use to get some money and raise some funds and see how many people I can beg. And luckily, working on Curse the Weird Deer and Cuck Island, people owe me a lot of favors. So, I get the cash in on that.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, when you do have a link to that fundraiser, we're connected. I'm gonna, keep an eye out for it. Gonna include it. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm gonna include it. With on this episode in the episode description. So obviously, those who listen to it down the road are gonna be able to pull that up.
That'll be great. But, I'm always nervous how people are gonna take it, because, I've worked in this like crazy sphere. I love these movies I work on, Curse the Weird Deer and Cuck Island and Shitstorm and Brandon's movies. But this is so like it's superheroes and wrestling. Like there's not a lot of like horror and blood and guts and stuff. So
no, but it's
adventure,
it's fucking schlocky and it's fun and it's ridiculous, and that's what we like, because
that's what I'm hoping to hit. That's what I want to hit, really.
Yeah, it's tongue in cheek, man. Like this is like a fuck you to those who only thrive watching mainstream film. We support the shit out of indie film here, and we're going to continue to do so. And I know there are people just like us. So yeah, hell yeah. I mean, even though, the internet would, make it seem like everybody's just dying to shit on the next film.
Yeah.
I do feel like it's a good time for indie film and maybe indie horror.
It is. I mean, look at fucking Terrifier too, right? I mean, that movie made a fuck ton of money. Totally
on a what, $250,000 budget?
Yeah, totally indie.
Something stupid, ridiculously cheap to make. Well, not cheap, for you and me, but
obviously cheap for normal. That's still cheap. Halloween they consider a cheap movie, and that was made for what, 5 mil, 10 mil,
Yeah, and that was in '78. So
I mean, like the newer Halloween too, like the Blumhouse ones, they're like only like 10 mil, I think 5 mil budgets, but still they're like that's low.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that low a budget.
But still, in comparison, then you look like Terrifier 2, that's like 250,000. That's now making
over 10 mil. Yeah, like something ridiculous. While it was in theaters, it made like over 10 million. It got that extension because of how well it did over that one single weekend that it was supposed to run.
And it's great. It makes me feel good. I haven't seen, an indie success like that in forever, since what, like the 90s,
So take me back to, I guess, the 90s. I don't think you were born in the 90s, were you?
I was 93.
Damn. Okay. Yeah, my math is bad. It's Tennessee math. You're gonna have to forgive that. So take me back to the beginning.
I remember some of the 90s. I remember like the late 90s a lot. I remember 99 where like Limp Bizkit was on top of the world.
Well, what else was on top of the world for you though? Like, tell me about your intro to horror film as a spectator, I guess, because like everybody seems to have that one film they credit as the one that made them go, well, there's some kind of itch that this is scratching, and I need to keep doing that. So for me, it was Friday the 13th Part 2. Nice. I want to know your origin story.
I mean, I love Friday. I love all the Friday movies. Part 6 is my favorite.
I love 6. I love 6.
I love movies so much. But actually, it was weird. As like a kid, I was kind of afraid of horror at first. Like, but I always loved monsters. Like, I always loved just monster shit. Like I said, I was a big Power Ranger guy. So I loved all the monsters that were on there. And then like I remember the first horror movie that's like burned in my brain is the Tim Curry's It. I remember that being on TV, or like I don't know if it was airing or when it was on. I just remember being on TV
2 nights in a row, right?
Yeah, I mean maybe. I just remember watching it. And just I was actually afraid of clowns after that for a very long time. And so I think I was like a teenager, and this is me. I was like young. And then I was like kind of into horror, and then like I was dating my ex-girlfriend in high school, and she liked horror, so that was kind of getting me into it. But what really like crossed the line was when I hit when I was 20. I don't know what it was that like really kind of flipped my brain. Maybe because I started smoking weed a lot more around that time. But I just remember my friend just not stop talking about like Dead Alive. And I was like, all right, I'll watch Dead Alive. I'll watch it. And then I watched it, and I was like, that is the coolest movie I've ever seen in my life. And also before that, I've watched trauma movies. I've watched The Toxic Avenger 2 as a teenager a bunch on G4, if anyone remembers that network. But yeah, it was really Dead Alive. Like that was the defining moment. I remember watching that and be like, this is the coolest movie I've ever watched in my life. I need to watch more bloody, insane things. I went from that when watched all the Evil Deads. And then and Texas Chainsaw, though, after getting into it, Texas Chainsaw, the first movie, is my favorite horror movie ever. Like I think it's perfect. And then I watched all 13 or 12 Friday movies consecutively after that.
You need to watch The Sawyer Massacre is what you need to watch. I'm going to hook you up with that link.
The Sawyer Massacre?
The Sawyer Massacre.
Is that like a part of Texas?
No. It is so the Sawyer family obviously is the team or the family in Texas Chainsaw. Mm-hmm. It's a fan film. Okay, so
there's some good fan films out there, man.
There are, and this is a very good one. Steve Merlo, who was a guest on the podcast a good while back in the earlier days of slasher sports cinema, which I think I was still calling the Graveyard at the time. But
that's a cool name.
Yeah, because my last name's Graves, right?
That is like the most horror character name ever. You sound like I feel like you're a part of like Rob Zombie's band,
Yeah, listen, I like Rob Zombie's music. Yeah, like Billy Graves. I've been told, like, listen, you've got the perfect name for a horror podcast, and I'm like, well, you know what? Why don't you tell me that I have the perfect name to be a horror director? Okay, why do you have to minimize me down to podcast? No, but
people tell me like, oh yeah, about sound. I'm like, I can do. I'm not just a sound guy,
But you know what, man? I'm gonna hold this thought. Damn it, I'm gonna hold the thought. But yeah, Steve Merlo, he was on, and the Sawyer Massacre. I'm gonna have to get you that link.
Yeah,
because it's on YouTube now. It was doing premieres around Texas. He's actually Canadian, Like he was so into this that
They shoot in Canada or they shot it?
No, he shot it in Texas. And I'm like,
Nice.
why did you shoot in Texas? Like Canada, like parts of Canada, Western Canada looks like Texas. So
yeah, I
why
mean, they cheat a lot of shit up in Canada, you know?
Yeah, they do. And like I know there's people up there that can like make this happen, but he's like, no, I wanted to get down to Texas and get this done. And I was okay, whatever. And he got like his whole Canadian cast to come down to Texas and film it. Did a hell of a job. Really proud of him.
I would watch it too. I mean, I always give a lot of. I mean, I love Texas too, but like I can't. I hate pretty much all the Texas sequels after 2. They're all terrible. So
They
if
were awful.
A Texas movie, I'd love it.
Did you like the new one? The 2022 one?
All right, it's not a good movie. It's definitely not good. But for like, I don't know. I enjoyed it enough. I don't know. Maybe because I hated the Halloween Kills. I think it came out around the same time or whatever. Because I hated that movie so much. This was just gory or fun. But the movie doesn't make any sense. Why was he go to an orphanage? I never got that. Why that was ever a thing. I do love the ending. That's been debated a bunch of friends. I love the last bit where like they're in the smart car and he like just perfectly chainsaws the girl's head off like butter. And then she's doing the Texas ending in the smart car. I thought that was so good. You know,
it was. And like, that's probably what redeemed it for me. I was pretty happy. I was happy with the film. Like, I don't expect, I don't ask much of,
and I look at
films.
The first movie and it's so fucking good. Like it does, it's not even like a slasher movie. It's just like this really gross, just unsettling horror movie. And none of the sequels have ever been able to get that tone again at all.
Yeah. 2, 3. You had Dennis Hopper and
I love 2 because 2 is just so insane that it's amazing. I love the chainsaw fight and the beginning of the movie where he cuts the dude's head off in the car.
The first 2 are fantastic. 1 obviously more than 2. 3 really drops the ball, but man, the new generation, next generation, what was it called?
Yeah, I think it's the new generation.
The new generation was hot garbage, and I never call a film garbage. I always find some redeeming quality in horror films
because a lot of crap. I feel
I defend a lot of garbage, and I have defended Halloween Kills plenty of times.
Really?
Yeah, I have. And the thing is, there's just nothing redeeming about New Generation. And I actually thought that the newest one with Jessica Biel was a little bit of redemption for the franchise.
I try to watch those movies. I just remember one scene. I can't remember if it was that movie or the sequel one to that movie. I call it that movie. Like it's like
is it the beginning? Maybe?
Yeah, whatever. But there's like a scene where a dude's getting like cut in half, and it's cutting to the dude flailing like and then it cuts to the part where they're chopping, and the body's still, and it's like clearly just I don't know. It just feels so like soulless. Like it feels like we're just gonna just make this bloody thing and make it look kind of flashy and I think it's made by Platinum Dunes, right? It was that company, wasn't it?
I think so, and I believe the one you're talking about has Jordana Brewster in it, which I saw because, well, obviously I saw it because it was a Texas Chainsaw flick, and I just thought Jordana Brewster was a better casting than Jessica Biel. I was not a Biel fan, but I do like Jordana Brewster. Had they switched films, maybe I would have been happier with the both of them, but I did think that because of how shitty New Generation was, that the remake with Biel was a little bit refreshing.
Yeah, I
and
guess
then
that's true.
But the ones after that were garbage.
Yeah.
the beginning was terrible. And when they made the newest one in 2022, I did have maybe some reservations when I saw that they were going to make this whole social media thing. Everything was about
that weird like school shooter angle too on it.
See, yeah, they're trying to make this a little too contemporary.
But then, I'm a big fan. I love the Evil Dead remake. And like that movie took the concept and was like, okay, this is about this girl who's also on drugs. And I thought it felt like it just worked its way. It never felt too forced. And then I don't know, this movie, I feel like they maybe could have handled those subject matters better, but it's more like, no, here's what it is. And we're going to fucking rub it in your face the whole movie.
Yeah, definitely a social commentary. Yeah. Like I'm fine with social commentary films. I've actually talked about a couple of them,
that's
recently.
Also commentary.
Right, but in order to have a horror film with social commentary, you also have to be able to take it at face value and it not lose its meaning.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't think the new one did that. Right. I think, you look at something like Rosemary's Baby, big social commentary there, and I think it was done well enough that you could take it just as it is without the commentary and have a good time watching a horror flick. But yeah, 2022 Texas Chainsaw, not so much.
Yeah, so that's how I feel about the Evil Dead remake too. I mean, are you a fan of the remake at all?
I do like the remake for what it is, but man, it's just hard to not, have Bruce Campbell.
I mean, yeah, of course, Bruce Campbell's. I love that man too.
He's a Mount Rushmore guy to me. So,
you watch Ash vs. Evil Dead?
I do. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that series. It gets a little hokey at times.
Oh man, that was my favorite Sundays ever. When I was on TV, I was like, I get to watch this crazy show every week. It filled a void that I needed every week,
So I have to know, and I'm not here to start no shit, okay? But I have to know, what the hell do you have against Halloween Kills?
I mean, the entire movie feels like a second act, like not even like the first act or like a third act. It just feels like a second act. Like it just kind of happens. Everything just kind of happens. The whole evil dies tonight thing, when they also like blame that homeless guy, and they also just, I don't know, like nothing happens, and he just kind of wins at the end. And then that also doesn't even tie into Halloween Ends, and it's like, so what was the point to any of this? Like,
well, that gives me bigger issue with Halloween Ends than it does Halloween Kills.
True, but still, I just I don't know, and I enjoyed the kills. Like, I loved the title, and I love that it lived up to that name. But I was like, Laurie and Michael didn't even do anything. They weren't even in the same shot together, I don't think, the entire movie.
Yeah, maybe not very often, if they were at all.
I just feel like they took like a bit of the second act that could have been like a part of the first movie, and they just made a sequel out of it.
So I always treated Halloween Kills as if Kills, or 2018 Kills and Ends, were going to be like one long movie.
That's what I thought too, yeah.
And then they swerved us on the third one, and that kind of ruins the thought.
I hate that movie more.
You hated Ends more than Kills?
Yeah, way more.
I can understand that. It is my least favorite of the three. I don't hate it, but I'm not happy with it. The more I've watched it, the more, well, first of all, if it were that bad, I wouldn't have watched it, multiple times. I can't say that much. And I also don't want to take the pen out of the creator's hands and rewrite it myself.
Yeah.
But I may have tricked myself at the end of Kills, because, when you own a film and there's an alternate ending.
Is there an alternate ending?
There's an alternate ending.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Kills? So to Kills, yes.
Wow.
So, but there's not a lot different. He still kills Karen, but the ending in the alternate
ending,
ending,
right, is him standing up, right? He everyone tries to kill him, and then he gets up, and then he just starts killing everybody, right? And he's like superpowered or whatever.
Yeah, and then he goes and kills Karen.
Yeah,
right? The daughter.
Yeah,
and I think that's where it fades to black and ends. The alternate ending has Jamie Lee Curtis from the hospital call Karen on her cell phone, and you assume Michael picks up the phone because all you hear is breathing, and you see a look on Laurie's face as if she's like accepted that he got Karen, and then she says, "I'm coming for you, Michael." And then she walks like down the corridor or the hallway of the hospital with knife in hand, like almost slow motion.
Yeah, I think that was in the trailer.
Could have been. Could have been
something like that.
Well, that was definitely the alternate ending that I kept watching as if like I didn't realize that it was the alternate ending. And that is what set my expectation for Ends. I'm thinking, okay, I'm coming for you, Michael. Now, the beginning of
the trailer, you watch the trailers for Ends. It's like Laurie versus Michael, the showdown. It's going down.
Yeah, we're not 4 years later and her baking pies, and
he's living in a sewer. Like, I thought he was superpowered. Like, what happened?
Right. Well, I mean, I guess that's what that's what gave them the ability for him to be overpowered by other people, because like apparently he transcends, upon killing That's what keeps him alive, right?
He
And
just stopped killing people. You know, that was
apparently he dragged somebody down into the sewer once in a while, right? Because the homeless guy, which I think was an ode to part 5, the homeless guy might have been like witnessing Michael drag somebody in once in a while just to kind of keep him going. But like you see that scene where
I don't get why he's so weak. Like I feel like he was.
I think it was because of the beatdown that he got at the end of Kills. It put him on the end, on the brink of death. Of course, he gets up and kills everybody, including Weird Science.
Really liked the first movie a lot, like the reboot movie. Like when that movie came out, I was like, I can't wait for these sequels. Like I fucking loved it. Like I was so into it.
See, I didn't know if there were going to be sequels when it came out. It doesn't
work on its own. That's how me and my Reeves, we joke about it all the time because I shit on the Halloween sequels a lot too. But I was like, there's only 2 Halloween movies you need to watch: just Halloween and then Halloween. That's it. You know, just
that's
Halloween,
all you need.
2018.
That is absolutely all you need. However,
and 3 is great, but it doesn't really count. You know,
there you go. Yeah, it doesn't count as like part of canon or whatever. But like they almost make it canon with the Easter eggs.
They do,
right?
yeah. Which I shout out. Yeah, I do like that. I do appreciate all the little Easter eggs they put into it.
I don't know if you saw that David Gordon Green had mentioned there had been a written ending where it pans to like a factory with them spitting out the masks, and like it shows, it shows the witch mask, and then it shows the skeleton mask, and then it shows the pumpkin mask, and then it shows a Michael Myers mask, like putting it in perspective that the mask was always what carried the power, right? Not the man, but the mask. So I'm almost happy they didn't do that.
Yeah, isn't that what Rob Zombie tried to do? Like the mask was like a thing.
Possibly. I didn't really get that. I actually thought that in part 2 of Zombie, that Michael had actually been dead the whole time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that I was trying to watch it through that lens. I don't know if it held up.
Yeah, I know. I hate that movie too.
Yeah, part 2, like I don't know how part 1 can be so good, and I do think part 1 is pretty good, and then it just completely.
Yeah, there's like the scene that just turns me off immediately. It's actually like the beginning of it when she's in the hospital, but the scene that turns me off immediately is when they're carrying Michael Myers in the van. I forget the actor's name, but he's in a lot of shit. He's the Night King in Game of Thrones. He was just in Barbarian. He's always in Rob Zombie's movies. I can't remember. He plays Doomhead in 31. I can't remember the actor's name, but he's
who was he in Barbarian?
He was the old guy, the third story. He's the serial killer who kidnapped all the women. He was like he come in as a fake TV salesman or whatever.
I did not realize he was in Zombie 2.
Yeah, he's the ambulance driver or whatever. And they're talking about fucking the corpse because I guess Michael Myers for some reason is next to a naked lady. Also in the back of the Rob Zombie movie, and they're talking about fucking this corpse, and then they accidentally hit a cow, and then the van flips over, and that's how Michael Myers gets away because they were too distracted talking about fucking a corpse and hitting a cow. And that's when
don't ever put Mike in a van or a vehicle of any kind because it's never going to get to where it's going.
No, never. I love that he also in all these movies that he just also knows how to drive. Like even the first movie, like
he was a child when he was locked up, and he can drive. Yeah, that's okay. There are times when I tell myself like, don't put logic into an illogical situation.
Well, that's why I always we talked about it earlier. Friday Part 6. That's why I fucking love that movie because it knows exactly what it's making and smart about it. You know, all the jokes are like perfectly timed and like they're just aware of all the cliches around them. And there wasn't, I mean, you might know better than I do, but I don't know any other kind of slasher that was starting that did those kind of stuff at the time.
No, when did 6 come out? 85, 86?
Yeah, it was somewhere in the mid 80s. Yeah.
I think 8 was 88 or 89. 7 would have been like 86 or 87. So yeah, it was mid 80s. So yeah, I can't think of anything that was just self-aware like that. Like we know we're campy. And we're just going to keep it that way. And we're going to kind of even poke fun at ourselves. But, having like a third Tommy Jarvis, right? Like, like how would that fly today? Like, man, you can't even keep the same actor. Like all 3 Tommies were badasses though.
Yeah, all of them. Corey Feldman. I don't remember the second guy. And then the third one, he was the same dude from Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, Return of the Living Dead, and he was also in damn it.
And he's in a Friday fan film that's on YouTube.
You're talking about 13 Fanboy or something like that?
There's one that's like called like Don't Hike in the Woods or something like that.
Okay, so 13 Fanboy had different people from the franchise. But yeah, okay, so he was in Don't Hike in the Woods?
Yeah, it was like a twist ending. You know, it was like there's a fan film of a dude getting stalked by Jason, and then he runs into an ambulance dude, and then it's like it says Tommy too. Like it's clearly like it's like a weird sequel they tie into. And there's a full I think they might have put out a longer one actually as of recent. I haven't watched it yet, but it's good. Like it's shot very well. Like these fan films are getting good. Better than what they're putting out in the regular theaters.
Yeah, man. I just talked to a couple of gals last week, or actually it was this week, about a fan film that they did. It was called Origin of Evil. They're out of Germany. It's interesting to see people's takes on these films.
Yeah, fan film of what?
Friday the 13th.
Oh, cool.
They actually continue from part 2. I guess that's, the director of Francesco Tesaro's favorite film. So he just said, fuck it. I'm going to continue from part 2. Yeah. It's ambitious, and it's done with people who don't have a ton of experience. And that's also admirable because it goes back to, I was watching the behind the scenes of Bloodstab.
Nice.
Yeah.
That was a good time.
I mean, it looked like it. And Mendez had asked,
Steeler, bro.
Man, he basically asked a not so rhetorical question, like how to make my own damn movie. And what did Lloyd Kaufman say? Do what you believe in.
Yeah.
And like that with the fan films is exactly what they're doing because they got nothing to lose. And it's been a recurring theme with everybody I've spoken to, from you to Ben to Reeves to Brandon. And like, again, if you want to make a thing, go fucking make a thing. And, I admire you guys and gals for doing just that. I mean, I'm talking about everybody from,
we're no one fucking special, I'm just an asshole from Long Island. And,
you're our asshole, James. You're our asshole. And that's what matters. I mean, if I want to make, a film with like Jessa Flux as the fucking serial killer and invite, I don't know, Bergio, I guarantee they would both consider it.
Yeah.
If they didn't have,
hit me up,
right. So, I mean, it's like, hey, we're going to do this. Okay, cool. And that's what I, really do admire about you guys.
That's kind of why I think we all work together so much as we do. It's like, I did sound on Cook Island, Weird Deer. Ben, he does art department. He did art department on Cook Island, acting in Cook Island. Weird Deer Reeves, like he's, he directed and wrote Cook Island, but then here he is gaffing and gripping and acting in Weird Deer, and that's what I'm saying. They got favors. They'll probably, we all work as each other's crew too. And it's like, we all still creative and we direct and write, but we also are able to help each other out. And it's like, there's not just the one head of a class, you know what I'm saying? Like we all are able to just kind of work on our own and help each other out.
I don't know if you noticed that I just lost my lights completely. That's wild.
Sexy now.
Oh yeah. Hey, I like it though. You see my lights back here, man. we're doing it big. But you were talking about Weird Deer and Cook Island and Bring on the Damned. Apparently Cook Island's been doing really well at these screenings.
It just won an award. Won 2 awards. Shout out to John Bergio, who got Best Actor. Non-gender specific. So shout out to Bergio.
And it happened like not long after I watched it. And I just felt like I was part of the in crowd, And
we were at Cinema Wasteland, and right after the screening, everyone has a few drinks in them. The guy who ran it, had a few drinks in him. We're all just kind of joking around, talking with him. And then I asked him, I was like, "So, what'd you think of the sound?" And then he just he was talking to Reeves about something, or like we're all in a circle, and he just comes right into my face and he goes, there's 2 things that got this movie in. One was Bergio's penis, because he said he paused it. He said he paused it and couldn't stop laughing. And the second thing was the good sound. And I was like, damn. He's like, all these movies, they're usually terrible sound. You guys had good sound. So I was like, yeah.
So I don't want to go off on a rant here, James. All right. But sound work has to be the unsung hero of the horror film. Okay. And remember when I asked you about the film that like got you on your path to filmmaking or at least horror?
Yeah.
Well, when I go back to Friday the 13th Part 2, it's not just a guy with a pitchfork, wearing the pillowcase over his head, murdering horny camp counselors.
No.
But the music was masterful. Harry Manfredini was a fucking god. And like not only the music, but the creaks of the boards as
all that sound is all that sound is made in post. Probably any of the sounds you hear are all done in post.
And it's so important to the film.
Like little like people. I remember, I think it was, I'm gonna say Men in Black 2. I can't remember for the first or second one, but I was watching the DVD when I was mad young, and they showed like Foley work, and they were like all their footsteps they're making. People are making those noises. And that was the first time ever in my life I was like, those footsteps aren't just Will Smith's footsteps. It's actually someone with like two pieces of wood clacking it together. And it makes you think about like everything you watch. I mean, any sort of sound that's like not coming out of someone's mouth. Sometimes even the sounds coming out of people's mouths are all done in post-production.
Well, I need to know about some of this magic, man, because like the more that I dig into it, the more I'm surprised. Just think about this. Like we as humans associate sounds with, happiness.
Yeah.
Like, the pitter patter of, kids' feet upstairs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's only really happy if you actually have kids. If you don't have
no kids,
kids, that same pitter patter is the last thing you want to hear, right? Especially if they're laughing. If they're laughing, forget about it. But just think about it. The oldest prank in the book, it can be summed up with one word: boo. Right? Hiding behind a couch, behind a door, waiting for your perspective. Waiting for your prospective victim to just get comfortable enough to have a minor.
Your brain's almost programmed to just already know danger off of hearing
you exactly. This is exactly what I wanted to get at. You're just think, the German airplanes during World War II, they had a siren that just as they're making a dive to attack, the siren's blaring, and it was done to basically break the morale of the enemies. Okay, a sound.
Scare people. Wow.
Yeah, a sound. And like when I was in boot camp, we'd be doing everything we're supposed to be doing, but our chief petty officer, or what most people would identify as a drill instructor, he'd randomly hit the Darth Vader theme. What is it? The Death March?
The Empire, whatever. Yeah.
So exactly. And when that music happened, we're down in push-up position.
Damn.
Right. And it was bananas because we
knew awesome and terrifying.
it is so terrifying because not only that, but it's almost like a Pavlovian response where it's like this sound happens. We know to get in push-up position because we're about to get beat. BEAT, basically educate and train. It means we're going to do push-ups out the ass. We're going to do squats. We're going to do a whole bunch of shit because we fucked something up earlier in the day and didn't realize it. So that's just how it went.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'd get this immediate dreadful feeling, and sound gets you in that fearful mood long before.
Earlier, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I always immediately go to that I've definitely read about what made that sound. I still can't think of what it is, but it's that initial, like with in the trailer, it's like when the cameras are going off, but it's like that, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like the whatever that sound is they were making. Like it's in the beginning of the movie, and it's like that eerie, like noise, always just like I feel it almost in the back of my neck. You know what I mean?
Well, that's just the thing. I mean, sound is what drives a film, and like just there's something called, and I hope you know something about this because I don't understand enough. I've attempted to understand how infrasound works. Okay, infrasound. It's like a dog whistle, sort of, but
I guess it's probably frequencies.
Yeah. So it's kind of like better described as, an extreme bass frequency, I guess. It's out of hearing range of humans, but somehow still gets a reaction from us. And I was reading a project done by Isabella Sills. She breaks it down really well. And yeah, I'm going to reach out to her, and like, if I can get her on.
Yeah. I want to know sounds that can fuck with me, like sounds you can't hear, but like it's still
it's
hear
still
it, you know?
it's still
Yeah.
affecting you. Yeah. So it's like, I mean, we're all vibrations, right? If you really think about it, and we react positively or negatively to different vibrations. I don't know if this sounds like a bunch of horoscope shit, but I mean, it's worth listening to, right? And if I can get her on, I'm going to shoot you an invite as well,
I would
because I
love
want
to, yeah.
somebody to be able to talk about sound coherently.
And
And,
like, yeah, you do something like the storyboards that I made. I mean, I edited all the sound. Like, there's no sound that's in that wasn't like I didn't find online or how to record myself. You know what I mean? Because it's all
right.
storyboards. I had to like between the music and making like an environment and I wish more indie films did care about sound. And luckily, I know Curse the Weird Year does because I talk to Ben every week. And Cuck Island too. Like we always made sure it was good sound. And I guess I don't know. Any advice I can give is to always just make sure it's as good as you can. The three things I always try to avoid is you want no reverb. Try to make sure it's as clean as possible so there's no wind, music blasting, you know. And I guess like the third one is just yeah, I can blank on with, but those are really the two. It's like just make sure you get it really clean and make sure there's no reverb because reverb is almost impossible to fix in post production completely. And if there's a lot of fans or there's like some sort of like dog barking or buses, like don't just do it one more time. Just do it again because that shit's gonna haunt you, you know, later on so many times. And like my biggest pet peeve that people come with me on set when I'd be like, hey, something there was a bus, a plane, whatever, and they'll be like, is it bad? I'm like, yeah, it's bad. That's why I'm here. And they always ask me, like, how bad is it? I'm like, if it wasn't bad, I wouldn't be telling you about it, you know?
Well, that's probably, a good place to stick a pin in this one. It's always interesting to see the differences between, directorial approaches of a guy who say might have been a sound guy or, versus who might have been,
Like, getting good sound isn't hard. You just gotta just focus on it and just either get someone to do it or just do it. I guess I'll leave it on this quote that always sticks with me. It's a quote by Lloyd Kaufman. I forgot. He didn't say it to me directly. I just heard him over here. I overheard him say it once. And it's like, if you got important dialogue, shoot some of it into close up so you can get the booming closer. So if you got important. So that always sticks with me.
He's full of a lot of good tidbits.
Yeah.
A lot of them. But yeah, to your point, you being a sound guy versus a guy who might have been maybe a camera guy or somebody who might have been a screenwriter. Just everybody brings something to the table. And I think you've got a lot to bring to the table. I'm looking forward to seeing what you work on, what comes of, no doubt, my man. And of course, when, if we can get the special sound lady to come on, you're invited back.
And you too. You should come on Totally Tunulars. Talk about some cartoons. Talk about
hey,
some Hogan.
If I have anything to offer, I'll gladly offer it. And yeah, just reach out. I'll reach out to you. And guys, I want to thank you very much for listening to this episode. This is James Boylan. He's an absolute badass. I hope you love his work.
Oh, badass. Thanks.
Before we dip, tell everybody where they can find you on your socials or maybe even where they can find your work.
Yes, everything is at Fantasy Shed on Instagram. That's where I post all the podcasts we do. On Spotify, the Fantasy Shed Podcast Network. That's where we got Make So Diff, Married with Ben and James. Totally recommend this dude. Blunt Smoker video. And then, of course, Totally Tunular because we got the 100th live stream extravaganza. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. And a bunch of stuff coming out. And go vote, too, on our Instagram. Go pick a show. And pick Teen Titans. Don't listen to Ben. Don't pick Cat Dog.
And don't listen to me. Don't pick Beavis and Butthead. I'm just picking, off of, favorites from the past. But I know you guys are going to put together a hell of an episode. Congrats on 100 on hitting the century mark. So, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. I want to thank James Boylan for being with me for the last hour and a half. A lot of things he could be doing on a Thursday night, but
this is great. I love it.
He's here with me.
Boring everyone else anyway.
Absolutely, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So you know what to do, listeners. Go forth, and may you drink the blood of your enemies from the skulls of their children.